Hi, good evening everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. In this session, we will understand how the smart calling in 2026 beats spam, boosts the connectivity, and convert more leads using AI. So, before starting, I will launch a poll for better understanding and meeting the problem as well as giving the better solution to you. Okay, so here is poll to you. What's the biggest challenge with outbound calling you face right now? So, Shelly, 60% people choose the option A, 40% option B, 20% option C, and 40% option D.
Amazing, amazing. Quite an insightful problem statement for almost all of the attendees out here today. Amazing. We're gonna talk more about it as the session wraps up.
Sure. So, hey everyone, today we have the special speaker Shelly Aditya, who hold 6 years plus of experience in SaaS sales leadership, driving the global growth initiative at CallHippo and helped various industries for double and growing the revenue. So, Shelly, over to you.
Thank you, Utkarsh, and hi everyone. Amazed to be on the platform today to talk about the 2026 reality checks and talk about some of the hacks that really work for businesses out in terms of making those smarter calling. Uh, So before I start, let's take a pause here to understand more into the depth of why we are on this call today, because this is the real reason we all are on this webinar today. Uh, High effort, low conversation is not a feature problem, is not a training problem of the team members, but it's more kind of a structural shift in how calling works in 2026. So when you look at this headline, high effort, low conversations, if I have to summarize the entire outbound system in one sentence, this would be it. Sales team, we all know today they are putting in more efforts than ever before. There are more dials, there are more sequences, there are more automation, there are more SDRs, and more softwares to help them improve productivity and efficiency. But still, we see a trend that conversations are declining. And when we go into the depth of this and when we break this down metrics by metrics, we see that the very first metric, the call connect rate, that has gone down. And currently, most of the businesses, they are seeing this number below 3%, which I remember back in 2022 was close to 10%. Now, this is a bigger dip, and this is a bigger risk for all the organization if not done right at this point of time. The entire outbound ecosystem will fail. Think of it in a way that if in the current environment, if your team is making 100 calls in a day, almost 97 people don't even answer them. What that means is your SDR need to dial 300 to 400 times more just to get those real handful conversation, what they would have been doing in the earlier setup back in 2022. Now, as a result, what happens? The morale of the team that drops, the energy of the team that drops, the confidence of the team member goes down. Managers at the other pace, they are always pushing the team harder without understanding the exact problem. The team start dialing more aggressively, but still, since the problem is never about the efforts, the problem is because of the visibility and the trust. The phone screen becomes a gatekeeper. And if we don't pass that first visual test, we don't get access of, we don't get the privilege of talking to those prospects. This is what the first shift is. Now, talking about the second metrics, 94% of the calls flagged as unknown or spam likely, they go unanswered. And that's a huge number, 94%. That's not a minor drop. That's almost complete rejection, which means the moment your number gets labeled as spam, you just become invisible. You don't even get the opportunity to introduce yourself to any business. You don't get to pitch. You don't get to handle objections. You don't get to differentiate. And the game ends right before it even starts. The most dangerous part of this entire process is most of the companies, they don't even know their numbers are marked as flag or labeled. The SDR just keeps on thinking people are not interested to talk to us. The manager thinks my script needs improvement. Maybe the script is not designed well. The marketing team thinks maybe the leads are bad. What is the real challenge? The real challenge, the number itself is compromised. And this is happening silently inside all of the outbound teams every single day. But the worst part, nobody's talking about it. Also, career AI is become aggressive. Earlier, the career AI used to be passive. Now, in today's world, if I talk about this in 2026, making more than 50 short duration calls from the same caller ID, from the same number, can trigger a spam label in less than 1 hour. I'll paint a complete picture for all of you out here so you understand this in depth and you really understand the struggle for these outbound teams and the SDRs. Think about a situation that your SDR locks in at 9:30 a.m. and they start dialing aggressively. Short calls, voicemail, disconnected numbers, and no answers. By the time the SDR is hunting and calling at 11 a.m., the number reputation is almost damaged. And then from that moment onward, the connect rates crash. Now, here is the irony: the SDR was doing the job, they were being productive, but the infrastructure punished them for it. And this is what is the new reality. The telecom layer is no longer neutral, it's filtering behavior. It's protecting consumers who are sitting at the endpoint of those calls, which means when we are outbound, when we are doing outbound, and when we are planning strategy around this, that has to be evolved. If that is not evolved, then you are working in a system which is designed to block you, and you will never be able to achieve better call connect rate. This is why I call it the pickup crisis. I don't call it as a negotiation crisis. I don't call this as a closing crisis. Or we don't even have a pipeline crisis. But what we have is a pickup crisis. Because if nobody answers, nothing else matters. You can have the best pitch in the world. You can have the best pricing of your product. You can have the best product. You can have the best SDR team. But if the call does not get answered, there is no opportunity. And this is the big mindset shift I want everyone to leave with today after the session as the biggest takeaway. So, the outbound success in 2026 is not about dialing more, it's about dialing smarter, it's about protecting your number reputation, it's about understanding your career behavior, it's about treating your infrastructure like a strategic asset. Because here is what's happening right now in most of these companies, they're treating phone numbers like a disposable tools. So they're buying one number, burying one number, buying another, then burying another number, buying another number. But they are forgetting one important thing of this entire ecosystem: the reputation that compounds. Just like we have domain reputation in email marketing, sender score while doing those outreach, phone numbers now also have their own health. They have their own trust weight. They have their own behavioral history. And the companies that understand this, these are the only companies that are able to outperform competitors who are still dialing blindly and not smartly. So when we are discussing this slide, when you look at this slide, don't just look into the metrics part of it. Try to see the pattern, understand how that is evolving. Efforts are always increasing by the team, but as an output, the conversations, those are decreasing. And unless we fix it at a system level, your outbound ROI will continue to shrink no matter how many calls you increase doing it, how hard the team tries. So the real question is, how do we fix this problem? Because we dialing harder is not the answer anymore. To fix this problem, you need altogether a new playbook, which we're going to talk about it. But before that, we're going to discuss the three biggest enemies of conversion. With that, Utkarsh, can we move on to the next slide? Perfect. So we just established something important. This is not a performance issue. It is not a script issue that we discussed lightly. And when you zoom out and look at from a broader perspective, these three, the connectivity, the trust deficit, and the dumb dialer, these are the three specific enemies which are silently attacking your conversion every single day. So we'll start with the very first and the most important one, the connectivity or the drop call issue. So this is where most of the teams they don't see the connectivity. They don't understand. They don't have those numbers ready with whatever the traditional telephony tools they are using. But in 2026, like I already told, the telecom networks are not more passive careers. They have become an active careers who understands on the basis of the AI uh, and those intelligent filters. So protocols like stir shaking, they are designed to verify your caller authenticity. So if your traffic is unverified, if your call patterns looks aggressive, if your number history shows short duration calls or burst, then your calls get deprioritized. And the worst part is you don't even get a notification of the same. There's no alert that says your number reputation is falling and you guys can save it. Your SDR just sees low connectivity. Your manager just sees declining talk time. But the real issue, which is the infrastructure friction. Now, think about this. If your entire outbound engine depends on call connectivity and connectivity itself is unstable, you are really building revenue on a shaky foundation. This is the very first enemy, but the most important one. When we talk about the trust deficit, buyers have notification tiredness. If they don't see who is calling and why they are calling, we all know that we tend to ignore those calls. So we have to win in the first 3 seconds because the buyers are overwhelmed because there are multiple channel outreach through which someone or the other is continuously doing outreach to someone or the other. So the brain is filtering noise constantly. So when the phone ring, it is important that you have to understand there is a very short span of the attention time of those calls. So people normally think, do I know this number? Does this look safe? Is this relevant? And if the number says unknown or spam likely or a random unfamiliar local area code or an international area code, they tend to decline it. Not because people hate sales call, but because nobody trusts ambiguity. This is what is the trust deficit. Before your SDR even says hello, before the SDR even gets a chance to pitch or do his or her qualification, the call just goes away. The caller doesn't decides not to pick up the call. So caller ID is now part of our brand. Caller ID is an important part of each of the business's brand. It saves the business from looking unprofessional, unverified, or inconsistent, and naturally helps the credibility goes up. So this is what is the harsh truth, which most of the outbound things teams they don't think at all. People focus a lot on doing optimization of the script, but what I believe is there has to be a lot of effort which has to be put into the play in terms of doing those research part and defining the ABM outbound strategic model. The third, of course, is the dumb dialer, and this is where businesses can really shift what is happening at this point of time because this is internal. This one is in your total control. Right now, I've seen most of the businesses, most of the teams. I talk to a lot of people in those events, the roundtables that we do, the webinar joint sessions that we conduct. I've talked to a lot of people, and they mention the same things. Their team dial alphabetically at this point of time. So a first come, first serve basis, or calling those leads in an alphabetical order. But there's nothing called as the prioritization or the propensity scoring that actually provides the intelligence to the dialing system. Now imagine this scenario. Suppose there are 1,000 leads in the CRM, and I know because those are resource leads, from those 1,000 leads, maybe 100 have high buying intent. But when you're using a traditional dialing system, or rather a dumb dialer, uh, The dialer doesn't get to know which leads visited the pricing page on a frequent occasion, which leads opened emails, requested a demo, engaged recently, and the dialer treats all 1,000 leads equally. Now, as a result, what happens? Your best SDR spend prime morning hours calling cold prospects who downloaded probably an ebook 6 months back. Meanwhile, your hot lead still awaits, not being able to get a single call from your team because the team is focused on prioritizing something else. This is not just inefficiency, this is a revenue leakage. Time, I believe, is the most expensive asset in today's world, and especially in outbound, that either make or breaks the team. And when you waste your prime talking hours on low propensity leads, you're eventually contributing to lowering your effective conversion rate without even realizing it. A dialer without intelligence is just a noise. So when we look out after discussing all these three parameters in depth, these three enemies, they attack it from different angles. Connectivity, of course, that blocks the access. Trust deficit blocks your answer rate, damages your pickup connectivity. Dumb dialing blocks your efficiency. And when all these three combine, you get what we saw on the previous slide: high effort, low conversation. The team feels busy, but the results are not coming. And the critical realization happens for everyone that you cannot fix this with more deals. You cannot fix this with more SDR pressure or creating more pressure on your existing team members. You cannot fix this with a better script either, because the problem is not about those script. The problem is not about those team members' effort. The problem is systemic. The problem is structural. Now, this brings up to the most important part of today's webinar. How do we beat these three enemies? Because if we solve connectivity, that automatically restores trust. And if we solve the dumb dialer problem, that enables intelligence. Now, all these contributes to conversion rate increasing multifolds. And as I say, they compound. They always compound. So that's where a new playbook has to begin. And what that playbook is, that is what we will be looking into the next slide. We'll play a pre-video of the product. Utkarsh, can we just pause it before we start? I just want to give a glimpse of things to all the webinar attendees today. So, like we spoke about those three enemies, connectivity issues, trust deficit, and the dumb dialer. Now, the obvious question is, how does a modern system looks like, and that actually solves these problems? Because this is not about adding another tool. This is rather bigger, and this is about upgrading your entire calling infrastructure. And that's what I want to show you. Now, what we're about to see is not just a dialer, it's about a business phone system designed specifically for today's world. And notice three things while you watch this video. First, how numbers are managed and selected. Uh, we taking you away from a direction where the dashboards are not intuitive, the admin panel is archaic, and all those things. Second, you see how routing and call flow is structured. Third, you understand how simple it becomes to scale globally without any telecom dependency. Because, like I said earlier, infrastructure is the problem. So I want you to show how infrastructure can be done right. Now let's play the video. All right. So now let's unpack what you just saw. So, what looks simple on screen is actually solving multiple deep problems below. Of course, the number one, number flexibility. So, you are no longer dependent on a single telecom provider, like we all saw. You can deploy local numbers globally, and that directly improves your trust and answer rates. The second thing, spam resilience. So instead of burning one number aggressively, we help you prevent the entire spamming problem for businesses. So we have a three-layer of spam prevention mechanism that helps you increase your connectivity and delay the spam as long as possible. And even when the number is marked as spam, you get to automatically replace those number. So you distribute the traffic intelligently, which ultimately protects their reputation. And of course, third, the centralized visibility that ensures every call, every outcome, every route that is getting tracked. See, outbound success is not about chaos, it's about controlled scale. And here is the important shift. Traditional phone systems were built for receiving calls. Modern systems are built for managing the outbound reputation. And that is the biggest differentiator between the traditional and the modern setups. The goal is not just making calls, it's protecting connectivity. And when you control your number infrastructure, you control your access to conversations. And when you control that access, conversations become predictable. Now that we have seen the foundation, let's go one layer deeper because infrastructure alone is not effort enough, and we also need intelligence on top of it. So let's take a look at the CallHippo USPs that takes things to a strategic level, and that's where it really plays an important role of binding everything and making sure you are adapted to the modern way of dialing in today's world. So multiple dialer modes, one platform. So most of the companies today, like we have discussed so far, they operate in a fragmented dialing setup. So they probably use one tool for power dialing, another tool for predictive dialing. Then they do also manual lead campaign, and the workflows are not connected. They are fragmented, disconnected, and all this fragmentation that creates inefficiency. So what we have built is a unified dialer ecosystem, a complete business communication platform with a capability of parallel dialer, power dialer, progressive dialer, all inside one platform. And why does that matter? Because your outbound strategy that might change depending on team size, campaign type, and lead quantity. For small volume of campaigns, the manual dialer gives you control. For medium level of campaigns, Power Dialer gives you that speed which is required to reach out to more amount of leads in less amount of time. And for large scale outbound teams, we have a predictive dialer that maximizes your efficiency. So instead of forcing your team all into one rigid structure, you adapt the dialer to your strategy. And here is the real impact. Smart dialing connects agent only to live calls, which means less ringing, less waiting, less tiredness for your team member. And ultimately, that contributes to only one output metrics, which is more conversations per hour. While you reduce your idle time, you are able to increase output without increasing the headcount. And that's an operational leverage you get with multiple dialer modes all embedded in one platform. When I talk about the AI powered call distribution, this is about the intelligence aspect of things. So, like we were discussing in the previous slides, the dumb dialer, which used to call alphabetically without any lead prioritization or propensity scoring, or rather AI powered call distribution that was there to fix that thing, the system automatically routes the right lead inside the platform with the AI powered call distribution. And this thing is not getting done randomly. This thing is getting done strategically, logically, and not manually as well. So you can route on the basis of the skill set of the team members. You can route on the basis of the availability of the team members. You can set your own campaign rules. You can set your own intent signal. And when you imagine this, all this empowers your SDRT, empower the outbound ecosystem, the outbound motion you're trying to build. Your best closer gets connected to the high intent prospect. Nobody wants to miss on the highest possible opportunity on this earth. Your junior SDR handles qualification traffic. Inbound hot leads, they don't wait in call queues. They're routed to the right team using the right workflow and algorithm of routing. Everything flows intelligently. And this is not just efficiency, this is revenue optimization. Because matching the right lead to the right agent, or rather vice versa, increases the close probability dramatically. And most companies underestimate this impact. Let's move next and understand about the 3x more talk time. So this is something very practical. Of course, the previous slide itself. Your SDRs, they are paid to talk. They're not paid to listen to ringing tones. So we don't pay the SDRs to listen to those traditional ringing sounds and not to manually dial those numbers. So actually, the conversation is what matters for us and why SDRs are there in the play. So the operational framework, CallHippo believes in reducing that by as many margins possible. And eventually that contributes in the increase in the talk time of the team members. In many cases, in many case studies, the success stories that we have worked with customers, we have seen up to 3x that number going up. Now think about what that means financially. If one SDR currently has 1 hour of talk time per day and that becomes 3 hours, you don't need to hire two more people. You unlock capacity from the same team. And that is what is cost efficiency without cost cutting. And today's world, that is what it matters. This dialer, the USP, the call hippo comes in with built-in performance tracking, providing you the real-time call logs, analytics, and monitoring without any manual report compilation, which is required. Most of the managers in the current outbound teams, they operate on lagging indicators, be it spreadsheet, be it manual export, be it delayed reporting. But outbound success requires real-time visibility. Call logs, answer rate, agent performance, disposition trends, conversion metrics, all visible instantly. Because when you see performance clearly, you can optimize immediately. If one number's connect rate drops, you rotate the number. If one campaign underperforms, you adjust targeting. If one SDR struggles, you coach them with the data. Outbound itself becomes measurable, and what gets measured ultimately gets improved. So when we look at this slide, we just don't see and we just don't talk about features. We fusion structural upgrades that create impact within businesses, be it the multi dialer modes in the one platform automatically improves the flexibility and covers that aspect. Be it the AI routing that gives you better intelligence, be it the 3x more talk time that increases your efficiency and productivity of your team, uh, and the built-in analytics that gives you visibility and control. So together, these don't just improve the calling part of things, they modernize the output. And in a world where connect rates are collapsing, modernization is not optional, it's purely survival. So because we are not done yet telling you how this moves on to the next level of and at the later slides, in the last slide probably will be also talking about the depth of how you can plan your day out, how you can plan your outreach. But let's take a look at the another layer of intelligence that we have at CallHippo. Of course, the AI agents, the CallHippo's sales agent, powered with n number of market leading indicators like automated outbound calling, smart lead prioritization, personalized sales outreach, because nobody wants to talk to robots, and uh, CRM integration with well known CRMs in the market. So we have talked about infrastructure, we have improved dialer efficiency, we have increased talk time. But what matters most for the majority of the businesses is the connectivity, is the maximized performance, is not only upgrading those infrastructure, but the results that those upgraded infrastructure brings on the table. So let's start with automation. Sales team, they tend to waste a lot of time doing those repetitive tasks and the CRM entry. or updating those fields inside your Excel sheet and all those things. So before we move forward, let us initiate a poll. We want to understand more about the depth of how the webinar attendees think about and the kind of challenges they face. So we're going to be asking if you are using any AI or automated dialer in your sales process. And I think your answer would really help me define and accumulate the relevant things in the coming slides. Let's wait for 30 seconds and yeah, we can then talk about uh, if people are using predictive dialers, power dialers, if people are using basic automation, and we can accordingly see how bigger impact this thing will make into your current ecosystem, your current sales process. Utkarsh, can we have the results out here?
So 33% have chosen we use basic automation but no advanced AI, and 67% says no, our process is mostly manual. 17% says we are currently evaluating new options.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of a mixed crowd. But I think even if you are evaluating new option or even if you're already using some kind of a setup, you would be able to equally connect that majority of the people out here itself, if I talk about uh, almost the biggest vast majority itself is all relying on the manual dialers. So they're not using any kind of AI based solution. And that is what is happening across the industries. So these AI automated dialer really help you empower the sales process. Like, of course, we have talked about it, and we're going to look into the depth of it with the automated outbound calling that we're going to be talking about it. So imagine this thing, the AI handling all the repetitive outbound sequences. Right now, what your SDRs are doing it manually, AI agent is there to handle everything. So be it the pre-configured call attempts, be it the call workflows, be it creating those call workflows depending on the certain logic, certain rules, be it time zone optimization, be it callback logic, everything is capable to be handled by the CallHippo sales agent. So instead of SDRs managing processes, these AI agent they focus on conversation. Automation does not replace the rep, it removes friction from the rep. And that shift alone increases productivity dramatically. But automation is just the first layer. The second layer is smart lead prioritization. Now, this is where things actually get powerful. Earlier, we discussed the dumb dialer problem, calling alphabetically, calling the oldest first, calling randomly. Smart lead prioritization changes that completely. AI analyzes the signals, website visits, email engagements, past interactions, behavior patterns, CRM activity, and it ranks leads based on propensity to buy, which I was talking about earlier. So instead of dialing 100 people blindly, your team starts with the 20 most likely to convert. Now think about what that does to closure rate. Accordingly, that goes up since we are now calling to the high priority leads at first. Think about what that does to your pipeline velocity. And more importantly, when these people they see conversion, the morale of the team that automatically goes up. The momentum of the organization, the team that gets built. So that is how smart lead prioritization makes things faster and helps you engage to the high potential lead more faster. Personalized sales outreach. Let's talk about personalization because in today's world, generic pitches they don't work anymore. So talking about personalization, buyers today they expect relevance. AI is able to analyze the previous interaction and adapt that context and utilize that in any further conversation. AI is able to suggest conversational angles, highlight the previous touch points, recommend the talking points to your team members as well. So instead of a static script, we are, we are rather making a personalized script on each of the team. So your rep walks into each call informed, prepared, and context aware. And that's powerful because personalization increases engagement. Engagement itself increases qualification quantity, and that is what correlates to increased revenue. Now, CRM integration. None of this works in isolation. Everyone wants the CRM to be the single source of truth. So your outbound system, they must sync in with your CRM automatically. Every call is getting logged, every disposition updated, every insights captured, because that is what is killing the scaling teams in terms of data fragmentation. Nobody wants to juggle from one tab to another just to find a small piece of information. So, in this kind of a system, marketing has one view, sales has another, managers have spreadsheets with full CRM integration. And these are the kind of things in the traditional businesses that kills things. With CallHippo, everything lives in one ecosystem. And here is the strategic advantage of those things. The AI driven insights, they never disappear. They compound and they are embedded right inside your system, which means every campaign becomes smarter than the last one. So when you zoom out, the transformation itself helps you understand this entire structure. Infrastructure protects the connectivity. Connectivity gets better with advanced dialer. The AI routes improve the matching thing. Automation removes repetition. Lead prioritization increases your conversion probability for the team. And this is not an incremental improvement. This is structural revenue acceleration. And the companies adapting to this model have really seen the changes and really seen the improvement in the market. Let's move next. Let's understand how you can increase your lead to conversion rate. And let's talk more about the spam prevention, the global reach, and the cost effective solution with the advanced modern telephony solution. So, most companies, they use one or two numbers aggressively. And using those numbers, they dial 200 to 300 times a day from the same caller ID. Of course, leading to the career AI flagging those numbers and understanding the pattern. So you want to make outreach in a planned manner, but at the same time, you have to avoid being robotic. You have to avoid being strategic in terms of following the same cadences and same pattern. So you have to personalize so that it feels more human like. So auto rotation solves this. What auto rotate does is instead of hammering one number, it ensures that from the same caller ID, not more than 50 calls or 70 calls goes in a day. Because once we have also discussed that in the previous slide, but we did a data research around it and we identified that when more than 70 calls are done from the same caller ID, chances increases multifolds of that number going to spam. So because of the auto rotate, the number appears fresh when making those calls. The pattern also looks natural. Spam labeling reduces dramatically and answer rates that improves a lot. This one shift can alone change your connect rate trajectory. Now, when I talk about the global reach, or rather the spam prevention part of how we enable that, so, like we discussed, the career AI that looks for patterns. So, when you make your outbound strategy human like, when you uh, make it human like in a way that it looks controlled, it looks distributed, not in terms of quantity, but quality and measured, automatically this protects your trust part of things. In terms of increasing the global reach, the only game changer is appear local and build trust. This is more about psychology. And even most of the attendees out here today would connect to this. If I'm sitting in India and somebody is calling me from a Dubai or a US number, I'm not more likely to pick that call up. But if somebody is calling me from an Indian number, I would be able to pick that call up in a more non hesitant manner. Virtual numbers with local area codes allow you to appear local anywhere. So be it if you are calling to US, UK, Middle East, APAC, this does not just increase answer rates, it builds familiarity instantly. And that is what improves your trust. So if you are scaling globally, but calling from a single centralized number, you are leaving answer rates on the table. Now let's talk about economic. Traditional telecom system, considering the cost involved with those systems, the hardware cost, the carrier dependency cost, the regional constraint, they become super costly. The VoIP infrastructure changes that setup. With lower communication cost, with flexible scaling, with no heavy implementation or setup, you get the strategic advantage of your communication cost getting reduced. And when you reinvest and when you look into the savings, you have better data, you have a better SDR hiring, you have better tools, you have a smart outbound team, which is not about spending anymore, which is about making things unified and utilizing those intelligence to make smarter calls. So I want to leave you with one core philosophy from this slide. Treat your phone numbers like assets. Do not treat them as utilities. Utilities always gets consumed. Assets are the one which gets protected. Assets always appreciate. Assets always compound. And when you protect your number health, when you rotate intelligently, you appear local. And you are able to manage calling patterns strategically. So you are no longer reacting to spam labeling. Actually, you are preventing it from happening. And prevention is what actually lead to conversion, sustainability, and helps that metric improve. It is not about hacks. It is not about script. It is not about aggressive dialing. It is about system thinking. So if you just implement this properly, you will definitely see improvement in the connect rates within weeks. Let's take at let's take a look at the customer success story of one of our customer who saw this improvement. So Arpitech, a growing marketing and a technology service company we are working with right now. Like many scaling teams, they were not struggling with the demand part of things, but they were struggling with the structure of things. Leads were coming in, calls were being made, but internally things were messy. And this is something I think most of you will relate to. They face three core problems. Number one, unorganized client calls data. Calls were happening across different systems. Information was scattered. Follow-ups dependent on individual memory, which means, of course, opportunity getting slipped away. Second was lack of performance tracking for remote team members. Since they had remote agents, there was no clear real-time visibility. Managers were not able to see who was performing, which of the team members needed coaching, which campaigns were converting, and they were all operating on assumptions. Third was inefficient call follow up with leads. So rather, what would happen, leads would show interest, but there was no structured callback logic, no centralized tracking, and an outbound there was a delay that always kills the thing. So the problem was not effort, the problem was orchestration of things. And how CallHippo solved this, what we changed. So we implemented the CallHippo's unified communication system. Firstly, call transcription and analysis. So we got every call recorded, we got every conversation transcribed, we got every insights extracted, which meant they were able to understand objection patterns. They were able to understand the customer's pain point and they were able to coach their agent based on those data. Earlier, they were using guesswork, which they were able to completely eliminate. Second, what we did was through our smart routing, we ensured the calls were assigned to the right agents automatically. So, no more random distribution, no more relying on manual distribution, no more missed opportunities due to misallocation. And third, the CRM integration. With that, we ensured every call is getting synced, every note updated, every follow up scheduled properly. Now, suddenly, outbound was not chaotic anymore. It was structured, it was predictable, it was measurable. And as a result, they saw a higher lead conversion, with all these strategic part of things, and they were able to improve their agent performance and responsiveness. So that is what we changed. We helped them get higher lead conversion. We improved their conversation, we improved their agent performance, and because coaching became data driven, ultimately contributing to the faster responsiveness and follow-ups being streamlined. Now, this is your next Monday morning or your next morning to-do list. So, first thing foremost is check your health. Most companies don't even know if their outbound numbers are flagged. So run a simple spam check on your top five outbound numbers. Call them from different networks. Check how they appear. Look for spam likely tags. Because if your number reputation is damaged, everything else we discussed today becomes irrelevant. You cannot fix what you don't measure. So step one, of course, is always awareness. Second thing is implement rotation. So always a business should buy 20% more numbers than what is required. By doing that, you reduce the repetitive call burst from a same number and ultimately improving your number reputation and ensuring there is a long-term connect rates. Third, enable your branding because, like we discussed, caller ID is definitely part of the brand in today's modern era. So, activate business caller ID, things like CNAM, uh, wherein you can display your company name while making those outbound calls. So, there will be a logo display that happens, whatever your region supports, because trust starts at the screen level, and that is what is popping in front of the consumer or the customer you're trying to get through on the next call. So that is what creates perception and everything. Fourth is you definitely need this. If you're not doing at this point of time, this is the time to score your leads. Understanding to the trend of who visited pricing page, how many times did someone visited my pricing page, who clicked on it, who reopened it, who opened it, who requested for something, how many times this guy had come in on the website, and all those kind of analytics, and you do map score to that part. So call those people first who matters the most, who have a higher intent. Stop dialing alphabetically, prioritize intelligently, and that is what your best SDR should speak to your best opportunity. That is what the game is. Ultimately, we need to limit dials. So cap that number between 60 to 80. This may sound counterintuitive, but that is what is required in today's time. This is to protect your dialing reputation. And with that, you would definitely get long term conversation. Outbound is a marathon, outbound is not a sprint game. And with today's modern time, the strategy needs to be changed. There is a smarter way of calling, which we already saw in the last 1 hour or so. And that smarter way of calling is what most of the successful businesses are following in today's world of communication and the way they are doing outbound at this point of time. So, I'm confident if you execute just these 5 steps, you will definitely see visible improvement in your connect rates within weeks, not because of luck, not because of script, but because you are aligning with how telecom ecosystem actually work in 2026. So execute these 5 steps to win. That's simple, strategic, and effective. And with that, I think most of you would be walking away with a kind of takeaway. It was amazing to have everyone together on the session, and I would pass on the baton to Utkarsh again.
Thank you, Shaili, for the incredible insights. The floor is open for the questions. You may drop down below in case you have any doubt or question. Okay, Shelly, I got one question. What I observed so far while you were speaking and talking about the
Mhm.
sales and how it's like a pyramid which in which multiple things helps and as a collective effort. So, what makes a successful sales team versus a non-performing sales team? What's the basic difference like?
So, see, what we covered in the initial part of the discussion, non-performing sales team is always fragmented. They spend a lot of time on those operational level of stuff, juggling between multiple tabs just to find small piece of information or rather update something. The systems are not talking to each other in a non-performing sales team setup. Whereas on the other hand, the sales team that performs, like we saw, everything is unified. CRM acts as a single source of truth, and that is what makes a performing team a performing team.
Definitely true. Nidhi is asking question, is this a CRM tool also? Like
So
CallHippo
Nidhi,
CRM?
we are not a CRM tool, but we connect natively with your CRMs and we empower your CRMs to ensure that all the data, activities, logs that flows right inside your CRM. So Calippo is a complete communication platform, not a CRM standalone software. We integrate with the most of the major CRM market players.
So sure, with this, we wrap up today's webinar and thank you so very much, Shelly, for taking out the time and sharing the real-time insights, what's happening across the world, like with the changing things, with changing strategies, with changing outcome, how we can become more smarter and more efficient in order to meet our new targets in more better way. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Utkarsh. Thank you everyone for having me today on the session.